Okay, I'm calling this meeting of Cleveland Heights City Council to order at 7:31 on Monday, March 17th. Addie, would you call the roll?
Cobb.
Present.
Kuda.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Maddox.
Here.
Russell. Petrus.
Here.
Posh.
Here.
All right. Davita Russell is not here. Her father passed away. For anybody listening, family and friends in the public viewing is Friday, March 21st from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Calhoun's Funeral Home on Rockside Road at 23,000 Rockside Road in Bedford Heights, 44146. And the funeral service is on Saturday, March 22nd at 9:30. The viewing is from 9:30 to 10 a.m. and the funeral service starts at 10 a.m. at the same location. Again, that's Calhoun's Funeral Home on Rockside Road. So thank you for that. And any amendments to the agenda? Oh, no amendments to the agenda. I'm sorry, I'm looking forward. Now we have our student update from Cleveland Heights High School. So Jesse Bowling, come on up.
I can put this up here, correct? I can put this up here. Sure. Thank you so much. I have everything typed out. Okay. Good evening, council members and Mayor Sarin. My name is Jesse Bowling. I'm a 9th grader at Heights High. As a member of the superintendent's cadre, I'm here to give a brief report about what's happening here at Heights High. Well, not here, but at Heights High, I apologize. I'm honored to be here. It is a little scary, but we'll get through it. I'm honored to be here this evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity. First, I would like to give you kind of like a visualization of what our athletics teams have been able to accomplish throughout the winter season. It was very successful. A couple of highlights: the boys and girls basketball team were both district runner-ups. Our ice hockey team finished the regular season on a 2-game win streak and won their first playoff game. Our boys and girls wrestling team were both 2 district qualifiers. And our swimming team highlights Jack Morrison for winning the 100-yard breaststroke at the sectional tournament. Along with that, they won 5 relays and qualified at districts, and 4 individuals qualified at districts. Excuse me. Here are some important events that are happening at Heights High. During the month of February, Heights High celebrated Black History Month through a variety of activities and events, including an all-school assembly featuring performances from students highlighting the varied genres and decades of African-American music and door decorating contest, excuse me. And the Who Am I contest, where students listen to clues on the announcements throughout the week to identify pioneers of Black history. The IMD held their midwinter concert on February 12th and February 13th. The Wednesday concert featured performances from the Symphonic Winds Concert Band and Jazz Concert, and the Thursday performance featured the Heights High Symphony, Concert Orchestra, and Philharmonic Strings, and over 30 8th grade orchestra students from both Monticello and Roxborough Middle Schools. The VMD held their midwinter concert this Friday, February 21st, in the high school's main auditorium. Heights High hosted a Jobs and Trades Information Night on February 25th for seniors, juniors, and their families, This event focused on post-secondary transitions, including jobs and career opportunities, trade programs, and adult programming for people with disabilities. The Heights High Swim Cadets held their 86th annual show from February 27th through March 1st. During the month of March, all Heights High juniors took the SATs on Wednesday, March 12th during the school day. Heights High's parent-teacher conferences were held Thursday, March 13th from 2 to 8 p.m. And Heights High will host the 28th annual Cleveland Northeast Suburban College Fair on Thursday, March 20th from 7 to 9 p.m. In the competition gym, students and families will be able to talk to admission representatives, discover potential scholarships, and attend the HBCU workshop. The families of rising seniors will be able to attend an informational session with College Now, Gear Up, and Educational Talent Search about class courses, test prep, GPA, educational involvement, and volunteering. And freshmen and sophomores are allowed to attend to learn more about the Heights Career Tech programs. Next, I would like to talk about our theme this year, Heights United, and what it means to me. To me, Heights United is a term that means, well, unity. And when you discuss the topic of unity, inclusion is often mentioned. In order for there to be complete unity, we need to further embrace bringing people together. So far, I believe that the CHUH City School District is succeeding in that. That is all I have for you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jesse. Jesse, well, before you go, I have a question for you. So if you come, I know I didn't tell you about the Q&A part of this. First of all, do you have any homework tonight?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. And my second question is, as a freshman, what subject surprised you that you ended up liking more than you thought, or that kind of thing?
I'd have to say history. To me, especially my teacher, he makes it more engaging and fun. And then we especially highlight certain events in history that can be talked about deeper. And, to me, knowledge is fun. Not everybody will agree with that. But that's the main thing, is just the engagement of the subject, and then being able to look at cool events in history. Not cool all the time, but cool most of the time.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that would really be it. I feel that the Career Tech program is very interesting to me. Unfortunately, I won't be able to do it because my schedule is so compact.
Yeah.
It just won't let me. And I'm also a freshman, so that adds to it. But
well, thank you so much for coming. And I don't want you to have to stay if you got homework to do, but we look forward to seeing you again sometime.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, and by the way, if anybody wants to sign up to speak, you can go over there where Mr. Volpe is right now. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from December 16th, January 6th, and January 21st. Okay, I guess no problems there. Communication from the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I'd like to read a couple things into the record and request permission from the council to go to bid for a couple projects. The first, I'd like to request permission to bid project number 2501, the 2025 road program, which you will see a bit of information about upcoming. And number two, I'd like to request permission to bid project 2502, parking lot repaving for the sewer building and fire station number 1. Both of those would require a motion and approval for each.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. President, I motion to approve both of the programs described by the mayor.
So we need one for each.
Yeah, we gotta do them individually. And
All right.
I'll make a motion.
Please bifurcate the motion, please.
The projects are 2501 and 2502.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I motion to approve 2501 as described by the mayor.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Mr. President,
next, yes.
I motion to approve 2502 as described by the mayor.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Go ahead, Mayor.
All right, second, I'd like to confirm the news that today the former city administrator, Dan Horrigan, resigned his position. And third, I would like to convey the much more pleasant news that we will be beginning the demolition of the building that burned at the Cedarly Meadowbrook project. Believe starting this week, we'll be demolishing that building, reopening Cedar Road, and beginning the work of rebuilding as quickly as possible. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Guess we won't have a city administrator's report. Departmental reports, we have Colette Klingscale, our Public Works Director here. We're very, very happy to have you here, and take your time.
Good evening, Council President, members of Council, Mayor, and our Acting Law Director. So they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I know we've had a lot of discussion about the road program, and I've kind of relayed all the other work that we're having going on in the city. So we've created this map that outlines all the projects that are going on in the city. I know it's hard for some folks to read, but it will be posted on the website. But this is basically our very, very aggressive 2025 capital improvement project program. The only thing on this map that is scheduled to probably not be completed in 2025 is the Cleveland Water Department lead line replacement project. And we included it on the map along with the gas line replacement project only because it impacts our work. We don't want to be on top of each other. We don't want to repave a street when Cleveland Water is going to come through and dig it up to replace some replace lead lines. So with that, we have requested some funding in the street repaving project. And as you can see, it's outlined on this map. We have different streets located throughout the city that we plan to repave. Most of the streets were rated poor in our last pavement analysis that was done in the late fall. So we selected streets from that list, and those are the streets that we plan to do. Now, along with that, I like to point out some of the streets, like say, for instance, over here on Kingston. If you look at Kingston, Kingston has, in addition to road repaving, they have some lead lines that are scheduled to be replaced. So we're coordinating with Cleveland Water so that they come in and they replace those lead lines before we go in and repave the road. So you'll see some cases on the map where we're doing multiple projects on one street. Also, in green here and throughout the map, you'll see the projects that we're working on that are sanitary and or storm sewer projects. On East Monmouth, anyone that lives in that area know that project has been a real challenge. We had hoped to finish that project by now, but we do plan to have it completed by the end of next month. But that project has been a challenge. So when you're working on a lot of these projects, you don't know until you actually dig up the street if things don't actually appear as they may appear on the maps that we receive. Case in point is, in addition to Lee Monmouth, is the work that we were doing on the sewer on Cleveland Heights Boulevard. So we were doing some work on Cleveland Heights Boulevard where we were working on the sewer. And this area right here. So that's part of our sanitary sewer pipe repair phase 1 project where we're going through and we're addressing deficiencies in the system throughout the city. So it may not require the total replacement of the water line, but it may be, of the sewer, but it may be a crack in the sewer or something of that nature. So it's like spot repairs in most cases. Well, when we went in to do the work on Cleveland Heights Boulevard, the contractor discovered that some of the properties that tied into Cleveland Heights Boulevard into the into the sewer were illegal connections. So they should have been tied into the sanitary sewer, but they were tied into the storm sewer. So that project has been put on hold because what we're doing now is we're going to be doing some dye testing on Parkdale, on Monte Vista, to make certain that that's not an issue that we have to address with a larger project. So if that's the case, that might be a project that we submit to the sewer district to get some grant funding for, because it may be above and beyond what we have allocated for that project, and the complexity of that project may be more. I'm gonna move on to Yellowstone. Yellowstone is a pretty big project that's coming up that's being paid for out of our ARPA funding. And we are going to be replacing a water and sewer line between Monticello and Noble Road. We're going to be implementing some traffic calming as part of that project. That project is located near junior high school, so the majority of the project will happen when school is out, but they have started, I believe this week, if they haven't started today, where they're going to be laying the pipe to tie in the temporary water lines from the residential properties. And I could go over anything that anyone may have some questions on. We also have on the map some work where we want to replace the parking lot at the sewer building located on Noble Road. We've had some dust complaints. We had planned to do it last year, but we didn't have enough funding. Also at the fire station is on this map. You'll also see on this map the work that's currently in progress at the Coventry Garage and the Surrey Garage. So I say that to say we have a lot going on. We also are going to do some crack sealing this year. We're going to do some crack sealing on the streets that we repaved last year to increase the longevity of those roads. So all in all, we probably have about 8 or 9 streets that are part of our street repaving program. But keep in mind that there are other projects that we're going to repave the road with. So Altamont, you'll see a blue line on Altamont where we're replacing the water line, but we're going to also repave the street after it's done. On Yellowstone, where we're replacing the water and sewer lines, we're going to repave that section of the street. And we've also incorporated to repave a great part of Yellowstone from Monticello to almost Oak Ridge. So as I said, this map will be on our website. It'll be posted probably before the end of the week. There will be some dates, some soft dates attached to all the projects because you just never know what's going to happen once you start digging. And if anyone has any questions, they're welcome to contact my office. And Public Works will be involved in overseeing and managing these projects or coordinating with other utilities to get these projects done. And so I also want to remind our residents that there are going to be a lot of detours. There's going to be a lot of disruption in traffic because we have a lot going on. But keep in mind, we received a lot of ARPA funding in the Public Works Department, and we are moving forward to get those projects done by the end of the year.
Thank you so much. Are you willing to take, I'm sorry I didn't ask you about this beforehand, but is it okay if I see if council has any questions for you?
Sure.
Okay, council. Okay, Councilwoman Larson.
Director Klingscale, thank you for this information. It's really important and helpful. 2 questions. Kingston, when you go in there to replace the water lines, will the residents have the opportunity to replace any lead lines from the curb to their dwelling?
That project is being administered by the Cleveland Water Department, and I do believe that they can do that as part of that program, if they have a lead line.
Yeah.
So they have a test, a penny test that they can do to determine if their line is lead or copper, and then they can arrange that with the Cleveland Water Department.
Thank you. The other question is about Cleveland Heights Boulevard. When you go in to work on the sewer line, would it be could it be considered that they'd come in and do something with the water lines as well, or is that two separate entities?
That's two separate projects.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Director Klingscale, I just want to let you know that I did get a few complaints about the way cold patch is put down. Some people have said that they've watched them do it, and actually I witnessed this myself once, where they just put it down and don't tamp it. And, you know, like literally hours later, you know, it's all over the place. But I know that pothole patrol is out there and, you know, you're doing a lot of work there. But I did want to let you know that sometimes some of the workers are not I don't know, there's some kind of device they use.
They can tamp it down, or they could ride over it with their trucks to get it solidified inside the hole.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much for this presentation. We've asked, this has come up in a couple of our committee meetings. So having you here is just like a perfect opportunity to see this. I'd love to see it when it comes up on the website to kind of dig it into more fully. But one thing as a council member that I believe all of us see is this whole issue about the potholes. So maybe if we've just got, 30 seconds, you're on camera, maybe you can just, tell our community if they see a pothole, how do you report it? And then how's it tracked?
Sure, you can report it through the Mayor's Action Center, and it's actually tracked in a program that we have called SeeClickFix. So if you report potholes there, they're forwarded to our department and we'll take care of them as soon as possible. And we have a lot of potholes, as other communities have, because of the type of winter we had. Whenever you have the freeze-thaw cycle that we've endured over this past winter, you're going to have many, many potholes. And that's why we actually have implemented a crack sealing program this year on the streets that we did last year to make sure if there's been any disturbance with the road settling or anything, that it doesn't impact the work that we did last year.
Director, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, next we have report of the council clerk.
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you. So now we're at the exciting time for public comment. We're going to do legislative items first, and then we'll do general public comment after that. I want to let people know from Compton that we will not be voting on the zoning for Park Synagogue tonight. And actually, I would like our pinch hitting associate law director to explain the reason, so just so they know, and then I'll move on with public comment.
Certainly. Just in the middle of a final review leading up to tonight's meeting, the law department noticed a flaw in the operative language of the ordinance that was going to basically send the approval of the zoning plan down the wrong review path for the planning commission. So we need to make some revisions to that section to make sure it is going through the proper approval process for an S2 rezoning.
All right, thank you. So you'll have 3 minutes. There's the clock up there. Addie, our council clerk, will call your name when you come up. Just restate your name and the street you live on, and let's get to it.
CJ Nash.
Hi, my name is CJ Nash on Vandemar Street, and this will be short and sweet. I just want to thank you guys for all the work that you've done on the budget. There's been an awful lot of drama, which has been very unnecessary and extremely unhelpful. And I know you've gone through a lot trying to get this done. When I hire a contractor at my house to do work, I want to see what they've done before. I want to see a contract. I want time to read the contract. I want to know they're going to finish the work. I want to see permits, yada, 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 yada. That's normal because that's my money. And the city needs money from residents, whether it's federal money, state money, or individual tax money. And you guys have an oversight duty, and I appreciate you doing it. I really believe in trust but verify. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And hopefully next year will go a lot smoother. Thanks.
Christopher Brace.
Good evening, folks. I'll say it into the microphone. Good evening, folks. My name is Chris Brace. I'm a resident of Cleveland Heights. I'm here to speak about the Park Road Synagogue, which unfortunately is not on tonight, but thank you for the due diligence. I am strongly in favor of this rezoning. This is the kind of development that I want to see in Cleveland Heights. It's the kind of place that I would be excited to, community I'd be excited to be a part of. It's the kind of housing that I would love to live in. And, seeing Cleveland Heights in living memory having 60,000 residents, and now, I would say 45,000, but I think it's down to 43,600 and something at this point. I mean, we lost 250 people last year, 350 the year before that. The city needs more housing, more compelling places for people to live in. That number of people would fill this lobby, and seeing that many people vote with their feet. We need more and better housing. This is a matter of survival for our city. And, when we have something like this on a silver platter for us, I want to see that happen. I want to see that get done. And I'm excited to see the excitement on council for this, and excited to see what the developers cook up next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Robert Brown.
Robert Brown, 2903 Hampshire Road. Actually, have two in a row now, people coming to speak about the Park Synagogue property. So I realize it's not on the agenda now. I just want to say, from my point of view, the development opportunity at the Park Synagogue site, along with the Severance site, are the two most important and far-reaching development opportunities in Cleveland Heights right now. And I'm very encouraged by what I've seen so far. Saving the sanctuary and adding new housing is critically important to the future of this area and to the city as a whole. I do think that, I'll just throw in one thing, that any opportunity we have for new housing with first floor master bedroom suites for the aging population who want to live on one floor is critically important. People do move out of Cleveland Heights as they get older, and they want one floor opportunities for living. It's very hard to find that here. So I think there's an opportunity to see that at this Park Synagogue site. So I'm very excited by the project, hope it moves ahead, and I think the development team that you're working with is first class. So thank you.
Drew Herzig.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, Drew Herzig, Bradford Road, Cleveland Heights. And for the record, I do subscribe to the city's email newsletter, and I am not now, nor have I ever been a member of the Communist Party. If the city really wants to bring back the McCarthy era and start creating an enemies list, then for the record, I am opposed to bullying. I am opposed to intimidation. I am opposed to the misuse of power. If that puts me on any of your enemies list, then I consider that an honor. To the budget, I want to thank all the city staff who have put in so much extra time to answer the councilors' questions. They really deserve our gratitude. I also want to thank Councilor Larson for all her detailed work in creating the Finance Committee's agenda, her diligence in keeping the discussion moving forward in a constructive manner, and for always treating city employees with courtesy and respect. Thank you so much. I hope you're able to cross the finish line with all this and get some rest. Thank you. On the other hand, Councilor Posh, I'm sure you don't consider yourself a racist, but your repeated challenges to the mayor's budget have consistently implied or stated that in preparing the budget, you think the mayor is either unqualified to do the necessary work, unwilling to do the necessary work, or not being honest with the council concerning the work done. Unqualified, unwilling, dishonest. In other words, ignorant, lazy, deceitful, classic racist stereotypes. Throughout the meetings, Councillor Posh has consistently addressed the mayor not as an equal, but as an inferior. Councillor Posh did not come right out and call the mayor boy, but that has been the prevailing tone throughout. I know I'm not the only person to have seen this, but people are naturally afraid of getting on the enemy's list in your retribution. To hearken once more back to the McCarthy era, at long last have you no sense of decency.
Michael Bending.
Michael Bending. I live on Edge Hill Road. First off, I wanted to speak out in favor of the Park Synagogue project. 2 weeks ago, Director Verzamp commented about how, and I'm paraphrasing, maybe the reason not very many people showed up to public comment is that people mostly show up when they're against something. I guess I sort of view that as a little bit of a call to action. I think the desire for the community to protect historic buildings and properties is noble, and I think the way that SCA is planning to do it is clever. Mixed-use development and denser housing as a way to make the property more economically sustainable is, in my opinion, a smart way to do it. Cleveland Heights has a decent bit of underdeveloped and underutilized properties, either underdeveloped or, in some cases, in disrepair. It's always exciting to see someone come up with a plan to take underutilized land and buildings and work on them to make them more economically sustainable. And restoring buildings so we can continue to have them for future generations. Which leads me to the next topic, which was the Livable Neighborhoods Initiative, which I saw in the city newsletter recently. This won't be a surprise to anyone who heard my previous comments or has talked to me for more than 5 minutes, but I think this is a really exciting opportunity for the community. To paraphrase, we prescriptively only build a certain type of home sometimes, namely single family and single use. Denser housing, mixed use, and missing middle housing often get left out of the discussion and, in my opinion, provide several opportunities. They can make the city more financially sound because denser housing requires less strain on services per resident. It can support businesses by promoting walkability and housing proximity to those businesses. It can provide affordable housing to those who can't afford it, a single family home, letting us live up to our town's motto of all are welcome. It can provide the city economically sustainable, environmentally sustainable by letting more people choose to walk instead of taking their car. And so just in general, this is something I'm really excited about, and I look forward to see what the city can do.
Thank you.
Sarah Curry. My name is Sarah Curry. I live on Compton Road, and Park Synagogue is my backyard, so I'd like to talk about it. While my neighbors and I are excited about the revitalization of this existing historic structure into an arts function, we are not excited about the prospect of a massive apartment development completely changing the character of our backyards and our neighborhood. This rezoning to an S2 opens a Pandora's box for a multitude of things, and we have yet to see a single rendering, elevation, or comprehensive site plan for what it would actually be. We've seen plans with white bubbles that say X and the number of units there. The developers have changed their narrative every time we've spoken with them. The existing zoning along Mayfield is already an MF2, which would allow for over 100 apartments to be constructed without impacting a single neighbor. The developer's notion that they must build behind our homes first to make sure that the project is viable is not only impractical, but it is suspicious, it is reckless, and it is lazy. If my math is correct, they're proposing in excess of 400 apartments to coincide with the renovation of 118,000 square feet of commercial university space. These 400 apartments would potentially have 2 or even 3 occupants, which means 800 to 1,200 new renters, potentially each with a vehicle in our backyards. The proposed zoning requires 1 parking space per dwelling in an S2. It also requires 1 parking space for every 400 square foot of commercial university space. This means that the developer's proposed plans would require 695 parking spaces. The entire site currently only has 400 parking spaces as is. This would eliminate the initially proposed green space. Will there be another variance requested and yet another for the building height? and another for setbacks. There are likely going to be light poles, floodlights, headlights shining in our windows, substantial noise 24/7, 365 behind our serene yards if this plan comes into fruition. We have many questions about parking, privacy fences, noise ordinance, displacement of all the animals that are living in the synagogue, the unnecessary removal of healthy trees, and we would love to see some actual drawings instead of suggestions as to what it may look like. Thank you. Chuck Miller.
Mayor, members of council, I live at the corner of Mayfield and Compton Road. I've been practicing architecture for more than 50 years. In 1983, my wife and I bought our first and only home at the corner of Compton and Mayfield. In that time, we have seen a lot of changes in our community and neighborhood. Through all these changes, we have become even more bonded to the people and the places of Cleveland Heights. This is our forever home. People who know me know that my professional colleagues and I have been very focused on the architecture of historic preservation and environmental sustainability. Now there's an exciting opportunity for these passions to be realized in the vision presented by Sustainable Community Associates for the preservation and adaptive reuse of the former Park Synagogue and site designed 75 years ago by the renowned mid-century architect Eric Mendelsohn. Back then, instead of designing a grand structure facing Mayfield Road as may have been expected, he positioned the building deep in the site next to an ancient natural ravine that bisects the property. As a result, I imagine there are a lot of people in Cleveland Heights that have never even seen these buildings. And that's unfortunate. It's a delightful, modern, 20th century design with a large copper dome that covers an intimate inside worship space. There are sliding walls to expand the worship space into an adjacent hall. The 3-story education wing has gently curving walls and a buff-colored brick. Between the worship space and the education wing is a beautifully landscaped courtyard. Sustainable Community Associates is committed to creating and preserving these buildings as an arts and education center that will be a great addition to our neighborhood and the larger Cleveland Heights community. In addition, SCA is proposing a new geothermal system to replace the outdated gas-fired boilers. They propose to plant trees to enhance the green landscape and to clean up the natural ravine. The new townhomes are part of the initial phase of the construction. From the preliminary images that have been provided, the architecture is very compatible with the modern scale and character of the Mendelsohn buildings. This project is so representative of our community values that I can't imagine a better next chapter in the life of this property. Its significance is hard to exaggerate. I must point out that the property is currently zoned A single family, except for the multifamily part fronting on Mayfield Road. Just imagine a housing subdivision being built rather than the arts and education green campus that's envisioned. And I don't think it would be realistic to expect the property to remain undeveloped like some people would like. It's less than 2 miles from University Circle, which is the fastest growing employment center in the entire state of Ohio, and whose employees have good incomes. In today's housing market, they are looking mostly for modern apartments.
Mr. Miller.
I am respectfully requesting you support this important rezoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure.
Amy Eugene.
Amy Eugene, Scarborough Road. I'm here to speak about the budget, but in order to do that, I need to first speak about race and racism. I'm a white person, and I will be making statements this evening about Mayor Sarin and Councilor Maddox, who are Black men. So as I share my comments, I also ask you to hold in mind a few other things. I also stand solidly with the other 2 Black members of this governing body, And what I have to say is based on evidence that anyone can view online in the videos of council meetings, council of the whole meetings, and finance committee meetings. From December through today, they're on the city's website and Facebook page. With that, a budget is black and white. Either the numbers are there or they're not. In November, council received from the mayor an incomplete budget package and was asked to approve the spending appropriations part of the budget. 6 of you said no, and Councilor Maddox voted yes. The 6 of you, Councilors Posh, Russell, Cobb, Kuda, Larson, and Petrus then voted to put in place a temporary budget to provide time for the mayor to deliver the remaining data and enable the city to continue operating as it should. At the council of the whole meeting on December 16th, the 6 of you asked the mayor if he would help you develop that temporary budget. He did not say yes, but instead said he would not let you fail. As you developed a temporary budget, you were met with resistance and pushback at every turn from the mayor and Councilor Maddox, who doubted your ability to get it done and who were also not willing to help. The then will not let you fail mayor engaged in the following. December 18th and December 20th, he posted on the city's Facebook page a call to residents to come to this city and push back against this temporary budget. And then when he lost that bid, he then posted, "Damn right I'm the problem," and he labeled you all Council 6. In December, he also encouraged city employees to attend a council of the whole meeting, and then he staged a walkout with them. He would tell you that he would get the data to you by a certain date, and then he would fail time and time again. He would convey the budget data to you verbally instead of in a document in advance of a meeting, verbally. He would then do a deep dive into a massive spreadsheet and speak in circles. He would inform you that he posted budget data on the city's website before he even provided it to you. The mayor's budget process and financial acumen are questionable. And at many council of the whole or finance committee meetings, Councilor Maddox questioned and pushed back against your progress at almost every turn. Additionally, the 6 of you were targeted by a racist flyer. I'll close by saying you 6 members were the subject to all of that and more because you stood up on behalf of residents and demanded just a standard level of fiscal responsibility. You 6 deserve a round of applause, so thank you.
Guy Thelian.
Good evening, I'm Guy Thelian and I live on Dellwood Road in Cleveland Heights. Just briefly, I want to commend everybody who was involved in the budget process this time. I know it was not smooth, it was not easy, but you do have a budget that's available tonight to be approved, and I want to commend you and encourage the approval of the budget that you have. I also want to state that I was a member of the Charter Review Commission. We did give attention to the budget process. We did make some recommendations, and if those recommendations are followed and understood and followed, it could change the character of the experience, and I would want to encourage that as well. All right, thank you, that's all.
Paul Volpe.
Good evening. I'd like Paul Volpe, Fairmont Boulevard. I'd like to speak with regards to the synagogue project. First of all, the zoning is well conceived, is appropriate, and at the right time, it should be passed enthusiastically. It sets the stage for potentially an award-winning development. I mean, just remarkable. But I don't think it's ready for prime time. There should be a plan. I can find nothing. I have researched for weeks for elevations, a conceptual sketch of what a layout might look like. I can find nothing, and that's disappointing. That's not normally the way these things are done. Zoning is a concept. Zoning is a framework. Good design, good planning is something that's tangible. We can understand it. I totally agree with the young woman who spoke earlier, that all of us need to see what this might be, not just what's inside someone's head. So I would suggest that you hold up. until you get that kind of information so we can envision it. There probably won't be a development agreement, and even if there is, any development agreement would involve a plan, something substantial to look at, understand, realize, with data that supports what's being done. The zoning is mixed use. Mixed use is a very general term. The fact that there is the historic property that has quasi-public uses is obviously a mixed use to what will likely be predominantly residential. But the word mixed is what's important. And in that framework, I think mix of residential type is very important. And I'm not talking about just not form and character. That's important. This place should be so well designed and planned. I'm talking about the type of housing. Will there be affordable housing? Will there be luxury housing? Will there be senior housing? Will there be student housing? How much of it will be rental and how much of it would be for sale? This is a perfect neighborhood to bring back our history and our sense of being as a place for permanent residents, like Chuck Miller, who got up and said, I've lived here my whole life. Okay, he's owned his house, I'm sure. We need to do more for sale housing. What a perfect place to do it. Let's not miss this mark. This is just too good not to think through.
Alicia Fiddler.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Fiddler, and I live on Compton Road. I have lived on Compton for 23 years. When I moved to Compton, I had one child, and we chose our home in Compton in part because we wanted more children, and this home was large enough to accommodate a growing family. It also offered a deep lot with a lot of trees, room to play, and shortly after moving in, actually 2 days after I moved in, I started to meet some of my neighbors who came down to shovel the snow from our front walk. It was those neighbors that I came to know more and more, and we became part of the Compton Road community, and we are still an active community. The community has block parties and midwinter gatherings. We welcome new neighbors, and we stay in touch with neighbors who unfortunately have to move away. Our street welcomes the Greek Fest attendees every year, and we welcome the Park Synagogue community in its heyday as well. Since Park Synagogue has moved east, activity on the campus has decreased, and I guess I have been holding my breath knowing that someday that would mean the property would change as well. While I know it's an unrealistic expectation, I honestly prefer the property not to change at all. Saving the historic synagogue and maintaining the other buildings are fine. I'm not really in favor of changing anything else there. It would change the spirit of the place that I have come to know and love. For me and many others in the community, it is a quiet respite from the hustle and bustle. It is a wondrous natural refuge with a creek, lovely mature tree canopies that's home to red-tailed hawks, red fox, deer, migrating birds, and other critters. I can't say for certain, but if I looked at a recent map of Cleveland Heights, I would say that we may have the largest stand of trees on that property, save Forest Hill Park. There really are no stands of trees left in Cleveland Heights of that size. So to me, developing this area should be taken with the utmost of care. We have the Severance wasteland just east of us, which has been developed and sadly needs developed more, and I think more than the Park Synagogue campus. We also have new developments at the top of Cedar Hill and along Lee Road, and plus what will have to be now rebuilt on Cedar. And I would hope that we would want to ensure that tenants are already committed to those properties which have been built before we allow more ground to be broken, particularly on the rear parts of the property that require zoning changes. I suggest that the Mayfield Road area be developed first. It's already zoned appropriately and the ground is already paved over. I also suggest that we hold the synagogue and developers to the highest of expectations and standards and ask that they respect us, their private property neighbors. Respect the code requirements and don't go suggesting the need for a variance before renderings have been offered. Please make sure the structures fit with surrounding neighborhood, especially if we have to gaze upon these multi-level buildings. From what I understand, the units are going to be designed in keeping with the structure of the synagogue, but that is not necessarily reflective of the 100-year-old homes that are surrounding that property. I'd like to also ensure that the project not proceed with the notion that the trees are a nuisance, as has been suggested. We all have obligations to be stewards of our spaces and preserve them for future generations. And the replacement plantings that have been suggested will take decades to provide what we already have there. Let's not make the mistake of paving paradise to put up another parking lot. Thank you.
Karen Lash.
Karen Lash, Monticello Boulevard. First of all, I'd like to say that I agree with every single word that the young lady in the orange puffer jacket spoke like 2 people ago. She said a lot of things I wanted to, and so I'll skip that part. Mostly what I want to do is I want to thank the 6 of you for all of the hard work you did to put together a responsible and viable budget for 2025. In spite of the mayor's unprofessional behavior, calling you names during a meeting because he wasn't getting his way, and his negligent and irresponsible behavior in trying to pressure council to pass a budget that was nowhere near complete, and taking 4 months to finally get you, I think most, if not all, of the information that you requested. Yet you persevered. I want to thank Councilor Larson. You had quite a job put on your shoulders. Yet you ran a tight ship in those meetings. It was great to watch. You kept track of everything that you were still needing. You kept people relatively civil, and you just kept on. So thank you for all your work. I want to thank Councilman Petrus for all of your personal time that you used to come to all of the meetings and putting together the initial budget, which was clearly the job of the mayor and the city manager and the finance department. I want to thank Councilman Cobb for all of the digging that you did and the research you did and the hard questions that you raised. I want to thank Councilman Posh for all of your number crunching, digging, and actually going out and finding an accounting firm to help council get a viable budget done. And I want to thank Councilman Kuda, President Kuda, excuse me, for digging in and standing strong amidst all of the pressure you received from the mayor and people in the community to pass the incomplete budget. People said it was political and it was this and it was that. I know that it wasn't. I feel that this is probably the best council this city has had in a long time. You guys have worked tirelessly to do what is in the city's best interest regarding this budgets and all the actions that you've taken. So for that, I say thank you.
That's all for legislative agenda items.
All right.
So next up for general, Todd Patterson. Marcy Klein. John Gall.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Gall. I live at the crash point where South Taylor meets Fairmont Boulevard. Y'all might remember me from the last council meeting. I've been trying for years to have a conversation with someone from the city about the situation in front of my house.
I get you to talk into the mic.
I think I'm loud enough without the mic, but...
No, it's for the people at home.
All right, the people. Can I reclaim my time? Anyway, I find myself in a catch-22 situation right now. Why is that? Well, I hired a lawyer, and since I hired a lawyer, suddenly I can't talk to anybody without talking through the lawyers and to the lawyers and all about the lawyers. I never wanted to hire a lawyer. I was forced into it, basically, in my opinion, because as Mayor Sarin has said, you guys offered to buy me out. I don't see it as an offer to buy me out. After 3 years of rebuilding my home, after all these wrecks that happened there, 3 years, you guys had plunked those 2 big rocks down on my yard on a temporary basis with the understanding that you would be working on a solution to the problem. I get the distinct feeling that once those rocks were placed, y'all said, we're done. And nothing else happened. So suddenly, when the rocks were hit and moved, requiring a city crew to come out and put them back into position, one of which is right over my storm sewer cleanout, and when another car missed the rocks entirely, missed the tree, and made it all the way up to my house, it became apparent to me that the rocks themselves were not a suitable solution to the problem. So at that point, I was dealing with Danny Williams, who was then the city administrator, and he kind of, in my opinion, panicked because you guys had not been working on any kind of a solution to this problem once those rocks were put down. And I called him on it, and I'm like, Danny, what is the solution? And he said, I'll get back to you. And then when he got back to me, he said, I've got it. It is the city's intention to buy you out at fair market value. I just spent 3 years rebuilding. I added lots of my own money to improve the place. You guys were supposed to be working on a solution. You panic and you said, we'll buy you out. Well, what are you going to do with the property once you have it? That's one question. Number 2, where'd the money come from? Number 3, if you have money to buy me out, why don't you have money to fix the problem in the first place? All right, that's enough for today. I'll be back next time. Thank you for your time.
Valerie Edwards.
Or we could meet in private, like I suggested.
Hi, I'm Valerie Edwards. I live on Bainbridge. For the last 2 weeks, in a house I believe is a Airbnb, someone's been parking on the street the opposite way on the wrong side of the street. And for 2 weeks that this has been happening, no one has ticketed that vehicle. Today, someone stopped. Don't know if they put a ticket on it or not. We didn't see anything on it, but they did stop. But the car is still there since 4:15 when they put a ticket on it or whatever they did to it, but it's still sitting there. The biggest concern about this place is, like I say, it's an Airbnb. There's multiple cars there, and one either does not have a muffler or doesn't have a catalytic converter, because it sounds like a truck and it wakes up my neighbors and everybody else in the neighborhood. In fact, I'm sitting there in the evening and I'm hearing the thing go off crazy. But my other big concern is a couple of intersections, and probably a lot more intersections, where people are going through the lights as if the light is not red. One of them is at Lee Road and Euclid Heights Boulevard. Another one is at Mayfield and Taylor. And on my street, on Bainbridge at Staunton, everybody goes through that stop sign, including cops. We need some help throughout the whole city. And that means policemen out there paying attention to what we're doing, or what they're doing out there, because it's ridiculous. Somebody's gonna get hurt out there. I don't wanna see another so-called roundabout, not on Staunton and Bainbridge, because that's the area where the kids stop, pick up for school. So please, whatever you guys can do to get police to help us out a little bit more, and especially that Airbnb at 3643 Bainbridge. The noise there is atrocious at times. The litter is atrocious at times, and the people that come there is atrocious at times. And right now, like I said, that car sitting there for 2 weeks on the wrong side of the road, facing the wrong way. Somebody's neglecting us for the last 2 weeks. Somebody's had to go through there. No one's done anything about it. Thank you.
Last but not least, Austin Gilchrist.
I do apologize. I should have put the Park Synagogue on there because it's more legislative than general comment, but it is a good summary just on kind of all the things that have been said tonight. I just want to start saying good evening to council, the mayor, fellow citizens, and all staff that are also here. I am here tonight to voice mine and the organization I represent, Strongtown Heights, support for the Livable Neighborhood Initiative that was recently in the newsletter, the Park Synagogue development, the new church development in Coventry for senior living, and also Rebuild Cleveland with Future Heights. At Strongtowns National, and also specifically Strongtown Heights, we are passionate about incremental housing development. We believe in a bottom-up approach to development that is adaptable and molds to the ever-changing needs of a community. The founder of Strong Towns, Chuck Marohn, has argued from day one that we need to go back to the type of development humans have done for centuries. Affordable housing has been a major focus at Strong Towns National in the past couple of years, specifically because Chuck wrote a book called Escaping the Housing Trap. And a lot of the solutions he mentioned in there and his other books that is the organization is named after align with the main points represented in the brief on this initiative and also some of the other things that you have proposed for housing development in recent times. We have countless resources, articles, podcasts, talking about missing middle housing and full service neighborhoods. I know that was on the FAQ that was presented in the newsletter. So what I am up here saying tonight is, as a representative of Strong Towns Heights, we want to extend ourselves as an organization to moving forward with City Council, with the mayor and all of city administration and the planning department and helping educate citizens and to provide general encouragement when I know there will be a lot of resistance towards some of these things. We believe that it is a crucial step into making Cleveland Heights a prosperous, resilient, and welcoming place for all. As someone who is a father of a 2-year-old now, who wants to spend my entire life in Cleveland Heights, I would love to see him also grow up and spend his life in Cleveland Heights. I think we are at a crucial tipping point where we need to go back to what we did 100 years ago and what we did for millennia. Thank you.
All right, that's it, right? Well, thank you everybody who came up and spoke. We really rely on you coming and sharing your views with us, and it means a lot. And I know some people say city council meetings are boring, but I feel like we always get a pretty good and very interesting turnout and comments. So now we'll move on to legislation. We have first readings for consideration of adoption. 3 pieces of legislation. Addie, go ahead.
I have resolution number 039-2025 on first reading. A resolution appointing Markietta Stevenson as a member of the Fair Practices Board to fill the vacancy for the remainder of the unexpired term ending December 31st, 2025, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 040-2025 on first reading. A resolution appointing Darius Smith, Aaron Miller Tate, and Taylor Wyndham as members of the Citizens Advisory Committee of the City of Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Councilmember Cobb.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next, I have resolution number 041-2025 on first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to apply for grants under Ohio's Urban Forestry Grant Program through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Division of Forestry, and to accept funding if awarded, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved.
All right, so we got 2 moves and
I'll
no
second.
seconds.
I'll second.
All right, now we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Next, we go to second readings.
I have a resolution number 037-2025 on second reading. A resolution authorizing Cleveland Heights City Council to establish a high school internship program introduced by President Kuda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? I'll just say thank you to my colleagues. We're trying to see, you saw with the young man that came up and spoke, we want to have as close of a relationship as we can with our schools, and having an internship program will certainly move us towards that goal. We've had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Oh, go ahead.
I just want to say that I commend the council for doing this. We've had a couple CHUH kids come through in the administration. One notably, Kareem Azam was here for a while in planning, did a great job, and is off doing his thing in DC now. So I applaud your efforts on this, and I looking forward to seeing how it works out.
All righty. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, for third readings, I've got ordinance number 245-2024 on third reading, an ordinance amending the zoning map of the city of Cleveland Heights to rezone the Park Synagogue property located at 3300 Mayfield Road to S2 Mixed Use District and transmitting the same to Planning Commission, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
All right, we will not be voting on that tonight. Fourth readings.
I have ordinance number 011-2025 on fourth reading as amended 2/18/2025 and 3/17/2025. An ordinance making appropriations for the current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Cleveland Heights, Ohio for the period of January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, repealing and replacing ordinance number 265-2024 and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure, introduced by Mayor Sarin.
So moved, Mr. President.
It's been moved.
Yes, do that first and then you can go.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Councilman Petrus.
President, I'd like to motion to amend ordinance 11-2025 to remove the seventh and final whereas clause.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now on to the legislation itself.
I think you're in discussion.
Oh, we're in discussion for the.
Yep.
Okay. So on the discussion, let me just say, and this includes the mayor, we're going to limit this to 5 minutes maximum for each council person on this. Mayor, would you like to make a statement?
I can certainly wait for council members to be done.
Well, we're not going to do that. So if you want to speak, please go ahead.
I really wasn't prepared to sort of give some sort of speech, but if you would just allow me to chime in the discussion, I'll stick to my 5 minutes, just like everybody else. Thank you, though.
All right. Who would like to go first? Councilwoman Larson.
Thank you, President Kuda. The charter of our city authorizes council to be engaged with the budget process. Section 1 budget, second paragraph states, such annual budgets shall set forth specifically such items as may be required by general law or by ordinance of the council, and the council shall thereupon and within such time as may be prescribed by general law approve or revise such budget and submit the same to the county budget commissioners or similar officials. On or before the 15th day of November each year, the mayor shall submit to the council an estimate of the expenditures and revenues of the city departments for the ensuing year. This estimate shall be compiled from the detailed information obtained from the several departments on uniform blanks to be furnished by the mayor and approved by council, and the director of finance shall assist the mayor in the preparation of such information. Such information shall be furnished in detail for each department and in such form as the city council may from time to time require, and shall contain the recommendations of the mayor as the amounts to be appropriated with the reasons therefore in such detail as the council may require. Why did I vote for a temporary budget? First of all, the mayor has advised council several times over the past 3 years that when he was on council, if he did not have enough information on a piece of legislation, he voted no, and he advised us to do so. This was the case when we received the mayor's budget worksheets and appropriations legislation for 2025. I did not have enough information to approve the budget. I wanted to see minimally October and November 2024 financial statements by the time we voted on December 19th, 2024. We did not have them by December 19th. I asked that fourth quarter financial statements be posted on the city's website. As of today, those reports are not available to the public. In fact, council was handed the final year and reports to the mayor March 3rd, and I wanted the results of the state audit of the city's finances for 2023. As of March 17 today, the state auditor has reported that he has not received all the documents he has requested for the administration of fiscal year 2023. Some members of council have requested they'd like to have considered additions to the 2025 budget. I've asked President Kuda to allocate time on the April 7th committee of the whole, and as it turns out, we'll be holding a finance committee before that to discuss those additions. So finance committee will be meeting one more time. I am asking for $38,160 for a composting pilot program for 2 locations, one north, one south. The mayor and Director Clinkscale will be discussing a $1 million expense request for a release transfer station that I hope that we see it come across for council's approval. This has been a challenging process. The Finance Committee met 6 times since January 1st. On March 11th, the committee agreed to move the assigned legislation, Ordinance
011-2025 forward to council for a vote. I would like to thank all of the committee members and the council, my colleagues who joined us in those meetings. I intend to vote yes tonight on this legislation with the commitment to the citizens that the Finance Committee will meet monthly in 2025 to discuss monthly financial reports, to track the capital budget projects for 2025, and to request updates on the 2023 state financial audit. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Councilman Posh.
Thank you, Councilmember Larson, for your unbelievable leadership of our Finance Committee. That's been a tough job, which shouldn't have been so tough. First of all, I'm going to vote for this budget, but I have to make a couple things. I needed some assurances from my council members and the Finance Committee, at least the majority of the Finance Committee, to have some things sort of put in place from our perspective to kind of keep an eye on this, to make sure that this situation does not happen year after year after year. I do need to say I was disappointed we haven't had the opportunity to have any kind of constructive budget conversation. All our time has been trying to get accurate information. And as Councilmember Larson stated, we really never got a final set of financials until really the first part of this month. My core issue is we don't have audited financial statements because we haven't been able to get the information, we as a city, to the state auditor. I need some assurances that I think I have from our committee that we're going to get the city will get the 2023 information to the auditor so we can get audited financial statements mid-year. We also need to make sure that for 2024, last year, we need to make sure that we're in compliance. We heard from our accountant today that there's a chance that our financial statements might be unauditable. If that happens, because we don't get the information to our to the state, that's going to have a disastrous effect with this on the city. You know, bottom line, we have to get that information in. And frankly, as a council, because this is a budget item, we need to keep an eye on this. We know from our accountant that he suggested that we as a city hire an assistant director for our finance department as providing a level of backup in case we can't get stuff done. Also, we need to replace an antiquated accounting system. We need to invest in this, and I'm hopeful that this council will, first of all, we'll get a recommendation from the administration very quickly so we can increase the budgets to add those items. I believe our Finance Committee needs to look at the financial statements that we get from our accounting department monthly, and we need to get an update from the department on how it's improving its abilities to get the information and get processes done quicker. I'm hopeful that we're going to get capital budget department updates quarterly. You know, one of the things that we haven't been able to get is where we are with all the financial, with all of the capital projects and which ones are transferring over from year to year. We really need to have a very, very clear one spreadsheet, one page of where we are with our projects. And I will tell you tonight with the Department of Public Works, seeing what we saw today, it's exactly the kind of stuff that we need to see more often. And I'm very, very happy that our Director Klingsdale was able to provide that for us today. So thank you very, very much. I really greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to having a constructive budget conversation of possibly increasing some of our budget items. I know there's a couple of things that we've spoken about in committee, but let's get this passed and then we can make some changes, hopefully in the next 30 days.
All right, thank you, Councilman Petrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are at a point where state law requires that we pass a full year budget. The budget before us is far from perfect, but weighing all things, I will be voting in favor of it. I'd like to firstly thank Councilwoman Larson, who chairs the Finance Committee, for keeping everyone on track as we work towards this point. And I'd like to thank the city staff for their hard work and Mr. Frank Ike from CUNY and Paniki for his helpful advice. As a reminder, I voted against the mayor's initial budget because it was incomplete and painted an inaccurate picture, failed to account for millions of dollars of known expenses, and relied on overly optimistic revenue projections. When council opted for a temporary budget, we said that if the administration needed anything more than what was appropriated by the temporary budget, we would quickly address it, and that's what we did. For example, when an appropriation was needed for the purchase of 5 new police cruisers, we immediately passed it. And perhaps most importantly, employees continued to be paid just as we said they would. We have since learned a lot of information, and I hope that the mayor can agree that even he learned more information about the city's finances. But it has not been easy. Some numbers provided to council, for example, repeatedly changed, and there's still information that we have not received, including, as you heard, the 2023 audit, which we learned this evening that the city has missed the latest deadline for providing the unaudited financial statements to the auditor, and statuses of the 2024 capital items, among other things. Going forward, there are a number of things that I believe must happen. First, the finance department must be fully staffed. Second, the administration must transition to new financial software. 3, the city must create a 5 or 10-year capital plan. 4, the administration must resolve all outstanding issues with the state auditor and Internal Revenue Service. And finally, new controls to ensure that we meet regulatory deadlines so that we are never in this situation again. Again, this is not a perfect budget, but this has not been easy, but all things considered, I'm going to vote for it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilman Maddox.
I'm going to be supporting tonight's budget. I'll be voting yes on that. I want to thank the city staff for the investment that they made and the hard work, continue to meet with us, provide additional information time and time again, and for their willingness and openness to continue to work with us to get as much information as this council felt comfortable passing. I'm disappointed in the fact that this budget this year was politicized. There's a ton of elections this year, and it's no secret about it. I've continued to state that during this entire process. At the end of this process, what we see is what we knew at the beginning, that this city is healthy. It has healthy finances, and it was never any issue. There wasn't anything nefarious going on, as was suggested when this process first started. Let us also remember that as the city approved this budget, and we went through this process, that this council, 6 of us, voted on a temporary budget that only paid themselves for the entire full year. That's why they had to go back and make corrections. While the rest of our city employees were wondering what in the heck was going on, how they would be able to take care of business, how they would be able to operate their departments. That's what this council did. Those corrections had to be made. It's unfortunate that we politicized what we could have collaborated on this year. And I'm hoping going forward, we can find a way together to build systems and process to improve that. A lot of the issues that I believe this council faced was a lack of understanding about city operations and finances. And that created a lot of confusion where questions could have been asked. We chose to bring in some gotcha moments. We chose to pull in the community members before we received our facts. We received the same information I had the last several years as a member of council and approved these budgets. It's only this year that we've had these issues. I don't know if it's because we have some new council members. I don't know if the council members that we have don't have that level of financial experience, but I know this was absolutely light and day different than the previous years we've had with our previous council leadership and my fellow colleagues. I'm hoping that going forward, we can find a way to collaborate, not just on this, but on other issues without politicizing everything that's happening in this city. I saw city staff over the months show up with as much information as required, sit there even when they weren't called on to receive this information, only to be called on time and time again to be called back into the room. I've watched them repeat the same information over and over and over again to a council that has already received that information. I want the community to know that we can do better than this. There was absolutely a sincere openness for this council, for the staff, and for the administration to work together by some folks. It's unfortunate, again, that in a year where so many of us are up for election and the mayor's office is up for election, that this was brought into this circumstances. That's why you didn't see this before. Same broken systems, same financial structure, and all of a sudden now it's an emergency because we have a mayor up for election as well as half of this council. So I just want you to see that and see that clarity and know that regardless of what you're hearing, at the end of the day, this city is not an emergency, and all our consultant did was tell you what you already knew, that the city is fine, the information was accurate. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Cobb, am I calling on you?
You are.
Okay.
I'm having a bad, excuse me, a bad flashback to what happened on December 19th of last year, the night that we passed the temporary budget. That evening, as has happened tonight to some extent, council members were called racist, sexist, disrespectful, transphobic, homophobic. There was fear-mongering to our employees, causing them to believe that their jobs, their pay, or their health benefits were in jeopardy. At least one person that spoke that night that's a city employee is here. We were told, quote, that we don't give a damn about city employees, quote, that a temporary budget would cripple the city, would make it difficult to plan and hire employees. We wouldn't be able to have a Kane Park season or book shows. None of the things that were threatened to occur happened or even came close to happening. All of the city employees got paid. All of the city employees got all of their benefits, and none of that was ever in jeopardy. Kane Park is proceeding. In fact, there was an announcement on the city's website announcing the season, and I see that we've already booked 3 concerts. So all the things that we were told were going to happen, none of them happened. To me, this is the lowest point that's happened since I've been on this city council back in 2019. We were criticized, as I said that night, for doing our job and demanding some financial accountability. And until late in February and early March, we were never provided the financial documentation showing exactly where the city was financially. There's no question that we have enough money in our budget, but for me, I want to know where our spending is at for last year, and we didn't have that information. As I said last week, I'm going to pass this budget. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy that a lot of the issues that we're having in our finance department are going to get addressed, and I have doubt as to whether they would have gotten addressed as quickly as they're getting addressed if we hadn't taken the position that we did. Lastly, and as I came to President Kuda's defense last year when he got called a racist, I think I'm a pretty good judge of character. And I didn't know Jim Posh other than passing and maybe a couple of conversations until he got appointed to city council. I think I'm a good judge of character, including whether someone is a racist or not. I've had an opportunity to get to know Jim Posh pretty well. I've had an occasion to have a meal with him and have a beer or two. I have no doubt that he is not a racist. And the fact that he asks tough questions doesn't make him a racist. If you're going to run for office and be a politician, you've got to be able to accept criticism and tough questions without playing the race card if you're an African American and you don't like the questions that are being asked. It comes with the job. And from this point going forward, I've sat up here and I've been silent when the race card has been played. I'm going to start calling it out. If I think someone is being racist, then I'm going to call them out. But if someone is being called racist, I'm going to come to their defense. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've decided that for me, I think 2025 is about looking forward and about building. I know that there are always headwinds. I've stated before that momentum is a myth, and even though we've had a lot of successes over the last few years, we can't rely on those. And there are always going to be tough roads ahead. So I'd like to take just a moment to thank some of the people who have contributed to sort of the really hard work that we've done. So I want to thank Willie Feltz. I want to thank Rodney Hairston. I want to thank Donna and Lori and Earlene and John in finance. And honestly, at this point, I'd like to thank the council as well for being at this point today. I know that this has been a difficult sort of process, but I do appreciate and I recognize and respect the role that council plays. And I also appreciate that, many of the appropriations requests that we have made as an administration to the council have been considered fairly. And I think at this point, it seems that the appropriations requests that we've made at the very least seem as though right now, I know the vote hasn't happened, it seems like the council believes that those appropriations requests are reasonable. And I'd like to thank all of our directors and staff who contributed to this process as well, many of whom are here right now, directors and chiefs, and really all of the staff that helped with this. I know I spent a lot of late nights, putting things together myself and working with, say, for instance, with Mr. Hairston, Director Hairston, and the team in finance to put things together. And so I just want to let everybody know that I appreciate their hard work and effort. And I am really looking forward to moving on to the other things. Like you say, we're sometimes you got to demolish before you rebuild, as we're looking at CLM. I know a lot of people thought that it would take 2 to 5 years to get that building demolished and start rebuilding, and we're doing it in much less time than people anticipated. So we just keep pushing, and we keep pushing forward. And once we've gotten beyond this particular hurdle, I think that we will keep pushing Cleveland Heights forward. And so I just want to thank everybody who contributed positively to this process. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Mayor. As was said by Councilwoman Larson, Council's budget authority is clearly defined in our charter. It is arguably Council's most important job, but in order to exercise authority, you have to have information. And that information must not only be provided in a timely manner, but it also must be in a format that is useful and easily understood, both to Council and the public. Council clearly did not have what it needed on December 19th, and that is why 6 of us voted for a temporary budget. We simply could not serve the residents of Cleveland Heights by rubber stamping a budget that contained more questions than answers. Simply put, when Council receives a budget, we have to know where we've been, where we are now, and we have to do that before we can figure out where we're going. It doesn't matter that we have money. You still have to have a budget. Doesn't matter how much money you have. That doesn't get you out of doing a budget. By the time Council voted on December 19th, Council still didn't know the city's real numbers for our unencumbered balance for 2024. We didn't have October or November's financials, actually until very recently, but we didn't have them when we voted on the temporary budget. We didn't have the results of the state's 2023 financial audit. We didn't have the results of the Archer salary study that was going to impact our 2025 budget. We didn't have estimates for our probable salary increases that are going to come with our union contracts. We had an incomplete capital budget that was not based on real numbers, but just projections. And there were many, many of Council's questions that had gone unanswered at that point. Keep in mind, there were a lot of red flags in 2024. We had no finance director pretty much for the entire year. We had an overwhelmed interim finance director who quit during the budget hearings. Our city administrator, who was charged in our charter with aiding the mayor in creating and preparing a budget, announced he was leaving in September of last year. It was clear during the budget hearing meetings that we couldn't prepare questions ahead of time because we actually received the budget materials when we sat down at the hearing. We saw them for the first time, so we, not having them in advance, we couldn't prepare properly. And the receiving of last-minute information at finance committee meetings would continue into January, February, and March. It was clear at the budget hearings that information was missing and that the administration was not as prepared as it was the year before. That was the big difference. The year before, prepared. This year, not prepared. Council was promised several times in December that our questions would be answered, but at their December 2nd and December 9th meetings, those promises were unfulfilled. Even though there were all these red flags in November and eventually in December, December 9th was the first time we even talked about a temporary budget. With most of our questions still unanswered, the majority of council members did decide on December 18th to create a temporary budget. Thank you, Councilman Jim Petrus, for staying up all night and doing that. And then on December 19th, by a 6-1 majority, we did pass that temporary budget. Eventually, little by little, most of the information we requested by council members trickled in over the next 3 months. And that was in stark contrast to all the unanswered emails I sent between November 25th and December 23rd. Let me be clear. After the temporary budget was passed, there's no question that the new finance director, Rodney Hairston, the temporary finance director, Willie Feltz, and the mayor worked very hard to get us information we needed. And frankly, the information they needed to confidently move this process forward. And we thank you for that. I believe that council, the mayor, the finance staff, and ultimately the residents of our community are better off for having gone through this trying process. I am confident that all of us will be more prepared for future budgets, and that includes myself. Bottom line, council majority did its job. We did not abdicate our responsibility by simply rubber stamping what was given to us. And we did not just reject the budget, we came up with solutions, including a temporary budget, a checklist of essential items council needed. We hired a CPA to review the budget and advise council. Our finance committee chair, Gail Larson, held numerous productive meetings that methodically went through the checklist and got us to the point where we are today. And we sent a memo to the mayor and staff on the 23rd, letting them know, please let us know what we need, what you need. Just another 30 seconds. This budget still lacks items that council wants, so I would encourage members to come forward in the coming months regarding money for street resurfacing, repairs, possibly a police mini station, dog park, high school pool. I saw a lot of things. Gail talked about the composting. At the end of the day, the system worked. The checks and balances applied by this city council produced better legislation. I certainly could have lived without the insults that council had to endure along the way. But in the end, I think this government has produced a better budget than the one presented to us in November of last year. And with that, we can vote on this. We have a motion and a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank God. All right, Addie, continue.
All right, so I've got consent agenda up next, so I'll just read a bunch of them in a row. Resolution number 042-2025 on first reading. A resolution joining with HUD and other communities throughout the nation in observation of April 2025 is Fair Housing Month, reaffirming the city of Cleveland Heights' commitment to fair housing and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by all city council members. I have resolution number 043-2025 on first reading, a resolution proclaiming April 6th through 12th, 2025 to be National Library Week and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by all city council members. I have resolution number 044-2025 on first reading, a resolution proclaiming April 2025 to be National Poetry Month and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by all city council members. I have resolution number 045-2025 on first reading, a resolution recognizing April 2025 as Earth Month and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by all city council members. I have resolution number 046-2025 on first reading, a resolution proclaiming April 2025 to be National Autism Acceptance Month and April 2nd, 2025 to be World Autism Awareness Day, and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by all city council members. I have resolution number 047-2025 on first reading, a resolution proclaiming April 21st through 25th, 2025 to be National Community Development Week and declaring the necessity that this legislation become immediately effective as an emergency measure introduced by Mayor Sarin.
All right. Do we have a motion to suspend the rules?
I move to suspend rules.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes. Then we vote on the
You have to do a motion in a second.
the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we're moving on to committee reports. We're in the home stretch, folks. Any committee reports? Councilman Petrus.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Housing and Building Committee met at 5 p.m. on Monday, March 10th. During the meeting, we recapped recent meetings with local housing advocates, and as a part of that discussion, the committee agreed that we would work on legislation that will require the government to provide notice to people of housing programs that they may be eligible for when they are cited for violations. The committee's next meeting will be at 5 p.m. on Monday, April 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. And I would really hope that we can get that short-term rental legislation moving. And I say that with deference to the person that came up and talking about the Airbnb that's kind of driving them nuts on Bainbridge.
If I could add one more thing, as many folks may know, we worked very hard on that last year. This has been with the law department for a while. We learned recently that the State House is moving forward with legislation that could restrict our ability to pass this legislation after a very long year of work. And so the law department is going to review that potential legislation to see its potential impact on the short-term rental legislation.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Larson.
Thank you. As the 2025 budget has been approved this evening, here are my objectives for the Finance Committee going forward. We'll be reviewing monthly financial statements starting with the January and February 2025 reports when they become available. We'll be asking that the fourth quarter 2024 financial reports and all 2025 financial reports be posted on the city website. We'll be asking the administration for updates on the state audit of 2023 financial statements and for status reports on sending required documents to the auditors for the 2024 audit. Be tracking approved 2025 capital projects to include but not limited to installation of the Denison Park splash pad and Coventry Village Street traffic calming. We'll be continuing discussion of the Racial Justice Task Force recommendation for an analysis of the lending programs available to buyers and owners in the majority minority neighborhoods in Cleveland Heights. We'll be getting updates from the administration on evaluation and a possible funding request for new finance department software. The next Finance Committee meeting is on March 26th at 10 a.m. and we'll be discussing council's capital requests that will be in addition to what we approved this evening. The next meeting of the Municipal Services and Environmental Sustainability Committee is March 18th at 5 p.m. Catalina Wagers, Chair of the Citizens Climate and Environmental Sustainability Committee, will be presenting the committee's annual report. That's all. Thank you, President Kuda.
You're welcome. Any other, Councilman Posh?
We have a council safety and health committee meeting at 4 o'clock tomorrow. There's 3 things on the agenda: a discussion regarding the safety action plan. We're going to be talking about a residential satisfaction survey and also scheduling the public hearing for the deer that was actually supposed to happen on the 18th tomorrow, but we've now delayed that into April.
Thank you. Any other? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I'm going to have a Administrative Services Committee meeting this upcoming Monday from 5, starting at 5. The agenda is going to include the Archer salary study, the pending salary ordinance, which sets salary grades and does have some salary increases for some employees, and then a continued review of Chapter 111 of our city ordinances.
All right, thank you.
One other thing.
Oh, please.
I'd also like to remind people that we continue to have vacancies on the newly formed Youth Recreation Advisory Board, which is composed of 9 to 18 members and is open to any residents of Cleveland Heights, regardless of whether you're in a public or a parochial school. You just have to be 15 to 23 years old. So if you are interested in applying, please go to our website, and we've got the application materials there. If you need any assistance, our council clerk can help you. That's it. Thank you.
And we should have asked Jesse. You know, the kid that gave the report. Well, too late now. Any other reports? All right, very good. Let's move on to old business. Old business.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to know where we are in terms of our follow-up with our risk management. I know that we discussed having a separate meeting discussing this with council, I guess how we're going to work together. To me, that is a completely separate issue than laws being broken and violated. We are clearly aware that members of this council had illegal meetings and we have yet to resolve it. We've yet to put in any type of parameters to stop it from happening again. And I'm still clueless if you as council president are continuing to meet with my housing committee behind my back. None of this has been resolved. It's gone on and on and on for months. Somehow we magically had 5-hour meetings for charter review, multiple meetings for the budget, but not a single actual conversation for how to protect this city to make sure these violations don't continue to happen. So I need to know exactly what we're going to do, because a conversation for 2 hours in some type of kumbaya moment does not mitigate any risk that this council has already put us under. So I need to know exactly what policies, procedures we're going to put in place and when we're going to have a serious conversation about this, because I keep getting a runaround and the residents are also asking this question. We are in the middle of having conversations about hiring inside and outside staff and all sorts of things. And right there on that agenda, we even discussed hiring an attorney that was loyal to us. And we have not discussed this at all. So I need this brought to the light, and I need us to have a serious conversation about this that doesn't surround itself about how we're going to get along and be happy with each other. This has nothing to do with the fact that laws were broken, things were violated, and we have not made any adjustments since. What are we going to do about this?
Well, number one, Councilman, you're not a lawyer, so you don't know if laws were broken or not. Number
I know
two,
there was a housing
No. We're not having a
housing meeting.
We're not having a conversation.
Point of order.
Clearly an agenda.
Point of order.
Wait a minute.
So let's get
Councilman,
that
we're
straight.
not having a conversation. You spoke and now I'm speaking. You're not a lawyer. You don't know if any laws were broken. No, I know. Wait.
Point of order.
No.
Point of order.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you had a point of order.
The councilman was interjecting when he was not recognized.
Right. I think I recognize that. Councilman Posh?
If laws were broken, this administration and you should report it to the Court of Common Pleas. It's very, very straightforward, as opposed to sort of running through the mud, okay? From what I've seen and from what my lawyers have told me, there was absolutely no breaking of any laws. So if you're gonna make an accusation like that, we've got a law department, we've got you can file something with the Court of Common Pleas and they could rule on it. It's very, very simple. You don't need an investigation. All the information, from what I understand, that has been showed is available. So go out there and file something to make it a determination. Then we'll know for sure. Let's not run it through the mud, though, over and over and over again, when most of us know that's not the case.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other old business?
So, Mr. President,
You haven't been recognized.
Mr. President, I'm asking to be recognized.
Go ahead.
So we go from nothing has happened, we don't think it's illegal, but we're going to discuss it, to now I need to get a lawyer. So number one, I have 3, and all 3 have made it very clear that you did violate the law. If you all would like to have a special hearing, we can discuss that, and I would love the discovery phase of that. Don't have to be a lawyer to do that. You clearly know you violated the law. We wouldn't be having conversations with the law department about it, trying to get this information to stop in the investigation. So let's get that straight. Number 3, me, the residents, and everyone else saw the agenda. Stevie Wonder knows there was an illegal meeting of the housing committee that I'm on, because you made it very clear when you typed up the agenda and sent it to 2 of the members. Don't play games with me and don't tell this public they didn't see what they saw. So again, where's the accountability for this council? We are not stupid and we are not blind. We saw the agenda, we saw the date. You 2 were in attendance down there and you sit and serve on the housing committee with me, and that was a part of the agenda. That's an illegal meeting. I don't need an attorney to tell me that. Stop playing games with the residents. So once again, where is the accountability for you, like you want to have it for the administration? It happened, the meeting happened, and I guess I need to ask, since you don't think you did anything wrong, is that your way of telling me they're continuing to happen? Are these meetings continuing to happen this way? Because if so, we have a much larger problem then. And if I have to explain how that agenda doesn't look like an illegal meeting to the people up here, none of you should be serving this city, because that means all of you are putting us at risk. So how many of these meetings have continued to happen after that one?
All right, is that it?
Crickets. That's what I thought. So don't tell me it didn't happen.
All right.
It did happen.
Thank you,
There's
Councilman.
evidence that it happened, and I needed to be addressed. If you're not going to address it, if you don't want to hold yourselves accountable, say that. But don't lie to the residents and say there's no evidence that a legal meeting happened when I'm sitting in a housing meeting looking at discussions that already happened in a meeting you provided the notes for, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other old business? Because that's really old. Nothing? Okay, new business.
New business, yes, while we're at it. So Councilman Cobb made it very clear that he's going to point out racism from here on out, where no matter where it's coming. And I want to make sure he knows I'm going to hold him accountable for that, because for the last 2 years, I watched him stay silent. Well, we were disrespected on multiple occasions, and in some of those cases, even agreed in private. So I'm hoping that this new commitment that he has isn't just for his other colleagues, but it's also representative of me and the mayor, the other two black men who are elected on this council, because we have definitely been in a silo in the past. And the other thing I would suggest for my council members, if you're going to disrespect one black man, don't take another black man to coffee as a cover-up hoping that he's going to speak up for you. You don't get to disrespect me or any other African-American and pull one out of your pocket to say, shit, look, I'm friends with this black man. We go to coffee. I can't possibly have a blind spot. That's disrespectful. He is him. He is not me. He is not the mayor. You don't get to trot out a black man every time another black man decides to tell you that you've been disrespectful or you might have a blind spot. Because let's make it clear. I never said any of you were racist. I definitely said you've been disrespectful and you have blind spots. And having coffee with Craig isn't going to resolve that with me. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? I mean, new business. I'm sorry. New business? All right. So now we're down to the council president's report. So, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to move it along, I guess. Council comments. Here we go. Councilwoman Larson.
This is a joyous speech.
You could use that.
First of all, March is Women's History Month. It is dedicated to reflecting on the often overlooked contributions of women to U.S. history. From Abigail Adams to Susan B. Anthony, Sojourner Truth to Rosa Parks, and to young Ruby Bridges, the timeline of women's history milestone stretches back to the founding of the United States. The 2025 theme for this month is Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations. The why? From the Women's History Month Toolkit. In the past year, the values of equity, diversity, and inclusion have been increasingly challenged. Misinformation and disinformation make it more critical than ever to include all generations in the effort to promote these principles. Advocating for equity and inclusion requires courage, especially when faced with those who seek to misinterpret, exploit, or discredit these values. I wanted to read some poetry tonight, and I came up with one that speaks to me, and I hope it speaks to everyone here this evening. This is the poem We Rise by Amanda Gorman, named the first National Youth Poet Laureate in 2017. I will do my best to read her powerful words and to do them justice. Today, everyone's eyes are on us as we rise. Today is the day women are paving the way, speaking our truth to power. In this hour, it is our duty to find the brave beauty in rooting for other women so they too know we are not victims. We are victors, the greatest predictors of progress. We press for change, a new dawn drawn into the open by women whose silence is broken. We push on and act on our responsibility to bring visibility to the most vulnerable, to bring freedom to those who didn't have a choice, to bring volume to those who are using their voice. We clear a woman's way. We don't fear the day. She steps into the light because we are with her every step of the fight. There's a lot at stake, but making a difference always takes courage. So we encourage women who dare to stare fear square in its face, women who've always shown that when one woman stands up, she is never alone. We know that when she steps up to right a wrong, she will fight to bring others along to the network, into the conversation, working together to change communities and nations for generations. Our world made all the stronger the longer women are able to sit at the table. It is her strength, her story, and her spirit which inspires other vital voices to speak up when they hear it. So let it be said that light will be shed when our world is led by leaders ahead of the headlines, the voices who are first on the front line. These women who stand up, knowing the wind not by where it is, but where it is blowing. Leading worlds not by how society is, but where change is going. We all leap forward when one woman tries, when she defies with her rallying cries, "Here lies, but does not rest," the best of tested women who call us all to rise, speaking the truth in this finest hour, that to their own power, every single woman is entitled, but it's how they empower others that makes women's voices so vital. Thank you.
Any other council comments? Council comments. Well, let me just say, could we just give another round of applause to a real class act, Gail Larson. I too want to say that I know Jim Posh, and I believe him to be just a man of strong opinions and character, and I don't know why that gets mistaken for something else, but I want you to know that I appreciate you, and I appreciate your diligence and vigilance on budget issues and a lot of other issues, and I regret that sometimes I heard somebody come up to the podium and other times here on the dais, you get mischaracterized. The last thing I want to address is this idea that this budget issue was politics. The mayor actually said this on New Year's Eve to a reporter. It was on television. I watched it. To say that this budget issue was all politics is to dismiss the many legitimate reasons 6 council people just got done telling you over and over again, sorry about the repetition, but these very substantive, real issues that we could not just let pass. That is not politics. And to dismiss it as politics is an ultimate slap in the face. I'll tell you what's politics. Sending out an e-newsletter, hey, everybody, come on down, and tell council what for. One person showed up, by the way. There were several misleading and inflammatory social media posts by the mayor I found incredibly political. The mayor lined up city employees here and asked them to say the sky was falling, even though everybody got paid, as somebody said. Everybody, medical coverage went uninterrupted, all the city employees and the services kept going. There was an e-newsletter that contained false and misleading information about council. There was one that said, council says this, here's the facts. I don't think the mayor speaks for council. There was a character of the Council 6 that I don't have any idea who created it, but I have to tell you, I don't think it would have happened if not for that horrific December 19th meeting where the mayor called council stupid, ignorant, liars, and labeled people who supported us as sycophants. Then there was the noon meeting on December 19th where I asked the mayor to show some unity because we were going to vote later on that evening. And I said, look, I know we're both going to go out there and you're going to say this is the wrong thing to do. And 6 council people are going to say this is the right thing to do. But let's just close ranks and say, hey, mayor could say, hey, it's temporary budget. It's not what I would have done, but we're going to work with council and make this work. But that's not what happened. I asked him that to come out and show some unity. And the mayor said in that meeting, right after I said, can we do this together? He said, do you know that the president of Heights Dems is planning to run somebody against me? I mean, that was such a non sequitur, I got whiplash. He then told me that Councilman Cobb and Councilman Posh want to replace Davida and I as council president and vice president. In other words, I'm asking for unity. I'm not playing politics. And that's all I saw. You know, so I frankly, I have to tell you that particular accusation really gets me. It's very dismissive of legitimate gripes that the council had, and not at all recognizing the politics that actually were played over and over again. This meeting is adjourned.